It's been a while since I made a video. I know I said it the last time that I should keep up on it, and then it seems like something comes up that I can't. I'm not sure exactly where I left off on the last one, but since January I've had about 6 broken ribs because the steroids making my bones soft. They get breaking. That would make me difficult to cough, which would produce pneumonia, which would make me cough, which would break more ribs. And it was a cycle that just kept repeating itself. Finally, I got off the steroids. Went on some calcium and D3 supplements, which has helped. But I want to kind of give everybody a quick update. July 9th, I had a CT scan. My coughing, I'm not normally like this. It's because the change in the rooms, the temperatures, takes me a little bit to get adjusted. And then I'm okay. So July 9th, I had a CT scan of my chest with contrast. Everything checked out. There was nothing notable. Same stuff before, some buildup from leftovers from scarring tissue and just from previous treatment. Right around July 16th was my 6-week mark, or my 8-week mark for my 5th rib that I broke. And then on the 18th, well, around the 18th, which is actually prior to that, my father and I took a quick impromptu trip down to Georgia to see my sister. My sister runs these very long, the one race was called Vol State. It's a 314-mile race. So we went to surprise her at the finish line. It was 10.5 hours to Georgia. We all slept for about 4 hours after that. Eight, and then 10.5 hours back. Left my father's house, and I got to my house. And when I got out of the truck, my chest on my right side hurt so bad. But it felt like it was more toward the muscles on the outside. I just figured it was from sitting wrong in the car that long length of time. I did a considerable amount of coughing on the way there and the way back. Except when I had the windows down, which just still doesn't make sense to anybody. The next day I told my wife that it didn't get any better. I'd probably go to the hospital, but she kind of convinced me just to go now. Just to go right away, and I did. And they gave me, when I got there, they gave me a drug called Dilaudid. What an amazing pain drug. After I took it for the next 24 hours, even after I got out of the hospital, I was walking around. Mine felt like nothing ever happened. Like I was 23 again. I mean, it's an amazing drug. But yeah, so Dilaudid. While I was in the hospital, though, before they released me, they did say they saw something in my X-ray, but they're not my normal doctors. They don't know what the normal uptake is from the scarring and whatnot. So I just brushed it off. I figured my doctors would see that and we can follow up there, which we did. I did see Oncology, so they wanted to make sure that everything was okay too, because I was having this progressive or continuous cough that I couldn't get rid of. So they wanted to do a biopsy. So they sent me for a COVID test. Before anything, they wanted to do a dye study of my port, because they can't get blood draws on it, but it seems to flush fine. So they wanted to make sure everything was okay, because I may have the only way to correct that you can correct it maybe with a blood thinner, but on one blood thinner because of my blood clots I had before. So the only way is actually take it out and put it back in. So we wanted to just make sure it was working, as opposed to going through all that. So I had to go for a COVID test for that. I went in for the dye study on this, and everything checked out. It works. It's working fine. That was July 26th. On July 27th, the next day, I broke my 6th rib. Now, by this time, I'm actually on I started my calcium, my D3s, not long before that. And that's made an amazing difference. My last x-ray still showed that it's still healing, but I have no pain, and it's the fastest healing one. That's a month. That's 4 weeks, and I haven't felt it like within 2-3 weeks after that. It's made a difference. So anyway, July 29th, I had an X-ray of my chest and a pulmonary appointment. Now, most of my coughing always seemed like it came from my throat. Same thing with me coughing just now, like trying to catch my breath. It's from here. It's not from here. It's like I'm breathing in dust. So I constantly am catching my breath. So they wanted to send me to an ENT. I went out to Dr. Moffitt, and Dr. Moffitt wanted to do an allergy test, a barium swallow, make sure with the treatments, maybe my body something changed, and I'm allergic to something now or more irritable to something that's causing this. The barium swallow, just to make sure things functioning properly, not going the wrong directions, and a scan of my sinuses. Maybe there's a sinus issue happening here. August 4th, I was scheduled for a bronchoscopy from the pulmonologist. And so August 16th, I had a COVID test again. Luckily, the place I go to in Lebanon, it's they give you the Q-tip and you just kind of swab very gently, 10 times around each nostril. So I'm not scratching my brainstem anymore like the other ones did. That was August 16th. August 19th, August 18th. I'm sorry, I gotta back up here. I had my COVID test on August 4th. Yes, I had my COVID, somewhere in there I had my COVID test. I'm sorry, I'm getting really, it's a lot of information. On August 4th, I had my bronchoscopy. Just prior to that, I had my COVID test. On August 9th, I had my appointment with Oncology, and my cancer is back. It has returned to my right lung. They took about 7 or 8 samples during the bronchoscopy. Half were benign, the other half were cancer. There's a lot of swelling and stuff, things there, irritation because of the pneumonias and everything else I have. So we almost have to wait to get that down. Now, prior to anything, I was on some other steroids, some really strong, not steroids, some antibiotics and whatnot, some strong stuff. I looked this stuff up. It's the same stuff they use to treat anthrax with. So they really wanted to make sure they got some stuff. The stuff prior to that was a full spectrum stuff, and then it's even listed. It says on it, this is something to use when something else isn't working or you need it to work. And it did help. I'm a lot different from what I was prior to taking that. But the cancer has returned. Like I said, it is in my chest again. And also they saw some spots in my back where it was prior, and maybe something off to the side, close to the arm, toward the armpit area. But again, because of all the uptake, scarring from previous treatments and everything else, they're not sure, because it almost to them looks like it might just be a fractured rib. Maybe it didn't break enough for me to actually get too much pain, but there's no way to tell. Obviously, treatments are going to treat it regardless whether it is cancer or not. So that's the positive to that. So on the 18th, I had my education, which they took my blood work and whatnot and told me what was going to happen. And then last Thursday, today's the 26th, it's like 1 a.m. in the morning. On the last Thursday, August 19th, I had my PET scan. And then August 20th, next day, I had my first chemo treatment. The chemo is different from what it was before. Prior, I used Carbol, but because I had an allergic reaction to it, they can't use it again because it's too dangerous. And I'll also be using an immunotherapy this time. So I start off with a whole long array of pre-meds, nausea medicine, long-lasting nausea medicine, steroids, steroid this. I have a long, complete list of a bunch of stuff they put in me ahead of time. Then I get 30 minutes of the immunotherapy, which is the Keytruda, and then I get an hour of called cisplatin, which is a much stronger chemotherapy. And then I get 2 or 3 hours of Taxol. I get 3 hours of Taxol. Cisplatin is that strong that they typically never use it by itself. Causes hearing loss and just a whole, it's some strong stuff. So usually they mix it with something else, and that's why I get an hour of that and 3 hours of something else. It's just better that way. They are long days. Prior, I got the radiation and the chemo. I got radiation every day and then chemo once a week. Here now, because I can't get radiation again, because I can't get radiation again because of being in the same spot. Chemo's every 3 weeks, and I'm there for 7 hours. Last Friday I got there at 9:30. They pretty much hooked me up right away, and by the time I was done, they had to unlock the doors so we could get out. So it's a long day, but luckily I don't have to do it every 3 weeks. My next one will be September 10th. This Friday then, August 27th, I'll go in for some lab work. They'll check my white and red blood cells and hemoglobin and whatnot, because that's where, from the bone marrow, that's mainly what's they gotta watch for. Maybe give me magnesium and some different, if they have to give me anything that's fluids. I am trying to take some precautions with some of the stuff to kind of help alleviate those things, which, like I said again, I'll get into another video, because I'm doing a lot of things different this time. A lot of things. So I'd like to kind of go over a couple of those things to let everybody see what's actually involved in this. If you don't have first-hand knowledge, it's a lot more than you may think, and the lengths that people go to get better. So I wish everyone well. Thank you.